All right, listen, thanks everybody for coming. I know it's in the afternoon, and we've got a lot of information to go over with you today concerning crime initiatives in the city of Albuquerque. We're going to take a quick look back at the initiatives we put in place in 2010, talk about the success of those initiatives and some of the challenges that lie ahead, and then talk about some of our new crime initiatives that we're bringing forward today. In 2010, as you know, let me get to the right slide here, hang on one second. In 2010, we unveiled a plan to attack property crimes and other crimes. Since then, we've used various technologies, teamed up with private industries, sought tougher legislation in Santa Fe, and tougher prosecutions as well. Through the efforts of the Albuquerque Police Department and the great men and women of the department, in 2010 we saw record low property crime rates as a percentage than ever before. Over the last 3 years, the new crime numbers the chief has that are preliminary that he'll be sending to the FBI show that we've ended up with the lowest FBI Part 1 crime rate in the city of Albuquerque for the last 3 years that we've had in the last 23 years. So what that says is we've had the 3 lowest crime rates in the last 3 years that Albuquerque has seen in the last 23 years. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Phase 1. When we talked about the crime initiatives that we put forward in 2010, there was about 15 different initiatives as part of that. Intelligence-led policing strategies were developed to assist in crime reduction efforts. The bait vehicle program was one such program that has shown tremendous success in the city of Albuquerque. Just last year, in 2012, there were 38 bait car arrests from the auto theft unit with those units. The night detectives, NIT detectives, have had 122 bait items arrested as well. And since the initiative began, auto theft has gone down in our city by 36%. So we know that that has been a substantial improvement in auto thefts because of the efforts of APD. We made it a priority when processing an arrested criminal to fingerprint them as well. So no matter how small the crime was, every criminal was fingerprinted. The Albuquerque Police Department implemented the dispatch of crime scene investigators to every burglary. Not only could they find and get fingerprints, but they also gathered additional information that was important to the burglary investigation. We developed a system that would allow for pawn shops to track stolen property. Thank you to the industry for helping us with that. So now, if a criminal attempts to sell a stolen item in a pawn shop, the buyer can scan for the reports that were made about the item, stopping the transaction and eventually returning the stolen item to its rightful owner. It's also helpful for the apprehension of the thief. We also began to advertise wanted property crime offenders on various advertisements, billboards. We did warrant ads in the Albuquerque Journal as well. And over the last 3 years, 1,033 individuals have been featured in these wanted ads. There were 1,122 warrants featured, and some of these individuals and their warrants have been featured more than once. The good news is that 93.24% of those warrants issued have been resolved at this point in time. We also implemented the Night Detective Squad. This program truly took off in December of 2011. The bait property program that we piggybacked on was the bait car program, and it now rivals similar programs in cities like Dallas, Texas. The team averages 10 arrests a month of bait property offenders, all of who are repeat property crime offenders. And we see repeat offenders a great deal in property crimes. In the last 16 months, they have made 294 felony arrests, 114 misdemeanor arrests, recovered $281,000 in stolen property, and they've seized $301,000 as well. This program even yielded an arrest of a homicide offender in one of our cold case homicide cases. So let's go to the property crime initiatives, and there's a lot of numbers in this, I understand, and we're going to give everybody a packet so that you have all of this information at your fingertips as well. So based upon the information from the Albuquerque police records that we're going over today, after we put these crime initiatives in place, the first year saw a 20-year overall low in crime rates in the city of Albuquerque. In the second year, crime ticked up slightly, but was still the second lowest in 20 years. And in 2012, based on the numbers that Chief is going to hand out today, some of the crime numbers went up, some of them went down, but the gist of it is there have been a decrease in the past year in auto burglary and auto thefts. Overall crime has decreased 7% during the 3 years that Phase 1 was implemented when compared to the previous 3 years. I've got a better chart for that in just a minute, but let's go through some of these charts. And I had Chief put together the charts for the different categories of the Part 1 crime rate from 2009 through 2012. And you can see where we put Phase 1 in between 09 at the beginning of 010, and then you can see the last 3 years. So robbery overall in the last 3 years as compared to the 3 years before has dropped 1% when compared to 2012. Auto theft has dropped 25% in 2012 when compared to 2009. Residential burglary has dropped 3.69% in 2012 compared to 2009. Auto burglary has dropped 12% compared to 2009. And then here's commercial burglaries. And this is one of the interesting ones. This is one of them that has, this is one of the categories that has ticked up over time. And the uptick in these numbers, according to Chief and the APD, is based largely upon repeat shoplifting events, and then copper theft has become a particular issue over the last couple of years in the city of Albuquerque and actually in cities all across the country. The numbers for commercial burglary increased 15% in 2012 compared to 2009. Once again, chronic shoplifters have contributed greatly to this. The shoplifters were charged with commercial burglary, which accounted for 21% of all those burglaries. So when we talk about commercial burglaries, shoplifting is a problem, and that's why it's good the Chief has been working with the retail establishments to combat that. It's also estimated that there were 172 copper theft reports in the commercial burglary category. And copper theft now accounts for 14% of all commercial burglaries reported. And it's interesting, oops, we'll go back to it. See if I can get to it here, hold on. This is an interesting statistic. Copper prices have risen from a low of $1.49 a pound in 2008 to more than $4. And so we think that's one of the main reasons that we're seeing a real uptick in copper thefts. It's something that we're working with property owners around the city. We're working with businesses. It's become a real issue nationwide. And you'll see some of the things we're going to do in just a few moments to start combating that. So when we talk about an uptick in commercial burglaries, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about shoplifting a great deal, and we're talking about copper thefts. Now let's go to some residential burglary numbers. While we've seen an uptick in some property crime, the Albuquerque Police Department has displayed a tremendous effort in arrests made in relation to these crimes. These are fascinating numbers. Look at the number of arrests for residential burglaries over the last 3 years. The number of arrests has more than doubled and showed a percentage increase of 137% increase in arrests. That tells you that your Albuquerque Police Department is out there every day doing tremendous work. Let's go to commercial burglary arrests. Look at the number of arrests that the Albuquerque Police Department is making. Now remember, some of these categories have actually gone down as a 3-year average over 2010 through 2012 versus the 3 years previously. So if some of the numbers are going down and some of them are upticking, but look at the dramatic increase in the numbers. That's a 66% increase in arrests made by APD. So all the smart policing initiatives that Chief Schultz and APD have put into place are really making a difference from an efficiency standpoint and giving officers the tools that they need. Here's auto burglary arrests, up 62% since 2010. Auto theft arrests. There was an impressive 178% increase in arrests for auto theft from 2010 to 2012. And these numbers, again, are a clear indication of the hard work of the Albuquerque Police Department, and their work is paying off. The officers are doing their job. They're doing it better than ever before. They're doing the reactive police work that needs to be done to go along with the initiatives that have been put into place. One of the issues that we run across specifically when we deal with property crimes is repeat offenders. Here's a slide I want you to take a look at. This slide shows the number of repeat offenders versus the number of one-time offenders when we make arrests for property crimes. 68% of individuals that we arrest for property crimes have been arrested before. And only 32% of these offenders are first-time offenders or first-time arrests. So let's just do a little report card on the Phase 1. So we're going to talk about the initiatives we put in place right at the beginning of 2010 and and see how we've done on a 3-year running average. Here's the way that the APD calculated the statistics. They took so they took the 3 years, so we're analyzing 3 years of data now, 2010, 2011, and 2012. To analyze that accurately, we're going to analyze it against the 3 years previous to when the plan put into place. Every single category from murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, auto theft, all Part 1 crimes have been reduced on average over the last 3 years. And that goes a long way to speak to the fact that we've had the 3 lowest Part 1 property crimes that the FBI calculates for the last 3 years compared to the last 23 years. So overall, 7.67% reduction in overall crime on average over the last 3 years. But we know we've got work to do. We know copper's an issue. We know repeat offenders are an issue. We know that certain areas of town have had an uptick in property crimes, in commercial burglaries. So we want to make sure that we're being proactive. And so today, we're going to list some of the proactive efforts that the Albuquerque Police Department is going to take and that we're going to take at City Hall to help combat particularly some of the issues that we see on a day-to-day basis. We're going to send legislation to the City Council to make it more difficult to sell stolen precious metals in the city of Albuquerque. We've gotten some help from our friends in the legislature in the past several years to make it more difficult, but we're going to go a step beyond. Due to the rise in the prices, as I said earlier, Albuquerque has seen an increase in copper being stolen from properties all over the city. So I'll be putting forward a city ordinance that will prohibit cash transactions on precious metals, especially copper. Working with the county and others, we're going to address similar ordinances. We're not the only city attacking copper theft, as I said earlier. The San Francisco Bay Area has also implemented the use of tracking technology for copper. Police officials in Maine conduct weekly checks of major scrap dealers, and the Atlanta Police Department leads a specialized task force just for this specific instance. So we're gonna make it more difficult to anonymously sell precious metals. We want the folks that deal in precious metals to have some record of who they're buying the precious metals from, including copper, and we think that will bring a lot of accountability to the system. We will have that legislation to the City Council in the next several months. We're also going to start a QTEL program, a way for people to track their personal property. The program will use the QTEL stickers like you see on the corner. We see them on everything these days, it seems like. The consumers will be able to scan the individual barcodes, then attach those barcodes to their property, large or small property, and then APD will host events to get people to sign up and get their stickers, so that if you do have a stolen piece of property, you will have a registration of your property, and people, the APD and others will be able to track that property easier. We're also going to implement a repeat offender alert system, a new system developed by the Smart Policing Division to alert officers when repeat offenders are released from jail. And I want to let Chief talk about it here in just a minute, but my understanding is we see a lot of folks that get out of jail and within days sometimes they're being rearrested or they're committing crimes again in the streets. We know there's issues that we need to deal with substance abuse in particular, and we'll be working on those issues as well. But we also want to know when repeat offenders are actually back on the street. So the officers will receive emails, alerts will be posted on APD TV, and we'll focus on chronic repeat offenders, as I said earlier. We're also going to start a program to raise community awareness called Repeat Offender of the Day. We'll be advertising repeat offenders every day of the week on APD's website. APD will also advertise each repeat offender chosen in news releases to the media on a daily basis. And this, we think, is going to make property crime offenders more well known to the public. You heard the earlier successes we've had with just the newspaper in and of itself, and we think this is going to be the next logical step. Perfect example. This gentleman has had 18 misdemeanor arrests, 18 felony arrests, 5 felony convictions. He was arrested on March 3rd again for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And recent arrests include criminal trespass, armed robbery, residential burglary, and battery as well. And at this point in time, my understanding is that individual is back in jail. But we know that we have to do a better job of working with and managing the repeat offenders. And as I said earlier, part of that's on APD, but part of that is also a broader community discussion to talk about what we can do to keep individuals from having to be involved in a life of crime. So there's lots of aspects to this. We will have electronic neighborhood watch, which we are starting to expand neighborhood watch blogs throughout the entire city. People will be able to watch and post suspicious behaviors. This will create a more aware community throughout Albuquerque, and then APD will also monitor that blog. If you remember, throughout the years we talked about fighting crime. It's certainly APD and the law enforcement professionals, but it's also industry, it's citizens, it's neighborhood groups, and if we can team up together to fight crime, we're going to win the battle in the long run. APD is going to also start tweeting stolen cars. A lot of cars are stolen in the morning when people are warming up their cars, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But we're going to start linking stolen car tweets to highway signs along I-25 and I-40. We will work out an agreement with the New Mexico Department of Transportation and or Clear Channel that will post stolen car information during rush hours to give more eyes and ears out in the community the opportunity to report stolen vehicles. Once again, we're trying to dissuade the behavior. We also have, as you saw Chief Schultz talk about at the Real-Time Crime Center a week or so ago, we have partnerships with privately owned companies and businesses throughout Albuquerque to supplement video coverage of crimes that have occurred. In each event that a crime is taking place near or within a business, the Real-Time Crime Center at APD can pull up live video of the crime as it occurs. And businesses will be able to sign a memorandum of understanding with the city. We already have Blake's Burger involved, and we have one other at this point. Or that's
Blake's is the only one online.
Blake's is online right now, and we will continue to expand that program. We are also going to increase our license plate readers on APD. This is a, what did we say yesterday, 30% increase?
Yes.
In the number of license plate readers that we have on police cars within the city of Albuquerque. They will be used to read license plates and deploy officers when it's determined that vehicles are actually stolen. And we're going to start a new LoJack partnership to expand and build partnerships with our local auto dealers. You know, LoJack is a company that specializes in tracking property, and a lot of people will buy LoJack for their vehicles in case they're stolen. They have a 90% recovery rate, and we're going to continue to expand that as well. So I know I've gone through a lot of information quickly today. We're going to give everybody the data. Chief also has the raw crime data that he's happy to give to anyone here today or in the next several days. But I think the short story is this. We've seen great success in the initiatives that we started in 2010. On a 3-year running average compared to the 3 years before 2010, every single category has seen a drop, and we've seen some significant drops in certain categories. In general, the FBI crime rate, the Part 1 crime rate for the last 3 years, we assume with these preliminary numbers even for 2012, will show the 3 lowest crime rates for the last 2 decades. And as a city and as a police department, I know we're committed. I know Chief Schultz is committed, and the police department is committed to continuing to work on this. I think the long and the short of it is these guys and gals have been very successful in working on crime in the city of Albuquerque, but they recognize that there's more to do. So we're going to take the areas that we've seen an uptick and come up with some additional programmatic options to fight crime in those areas, and then we're going to continue to do the great things through APD that they've been doing to drive the auto theft rates and other rates down significantly. That's a lot of information, and Chief is here to expound on anything you'd like, but if you have questions, Chief, you want to add a few words, and then you probably explain it better than I can anyway, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
The main thing I want to do is thank the men and women of the Albuquerque Police Department. We gave them a challenge 3 years ago to really change the behavior of property crime offenders in the city, and they stepped up to that challenge. And I think the most telling detail is the increase in the number of arrests that have occurred, ranging between 60% and 178% increase in different categories of crime. Tells me that we're doing a good job of going out, improving our efficiencies, but holding those people accountable. Unfortunately, it's also disturbing the fact that 2/3 of all those offenders, it's not the first time they've committed those crimes. And I think that's the area where we really need help. We need help with the rest of the criminal justice system. The catch and release program is not good. It's not good for the citizens of Albuquerque, and it's time that these offenders are held much more accountable. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to make those arrests, to educate the community, to put in plans in place that we can, such as the QTEL program. I know the burglary detectives continue to go out and work hard. One of the most recent arrests made within the past 24 hours, and it's continuing to develop as we speak, one group of offenders responsible for over 45 residential burglaries. So I think that tells you how much impact one set of criminals can have on the community. Yeah. Repeat that again if I have to. And other than that, we'll take questions.
No, you might want to say that one again. I want to say that one again.
One of the cases that the burglary detectives have been working involves one crew of burglars. This one group of individuals has committed over 45 residential burglaries. So that shows the impact that one group of criminals can have on an entire community. And that's where we want to put our focus, is on those offenders that are most prolific, that are committing most of the crimes, but we need to have some real accountability held against them. They can't be released from jail 2, 3, 4 weeks later. They need to actually have to suffer some type of meaningful consequence. But we'll continue to do what we need to do. We'll continue to educate the community. We'll continue to put our resources where they're needed the most. And together, we can continue to change criminal behavior in the city of Albuquerque.
All right, anybody have any questions? A lot of data today. I understand that we went through this rather quickly. There's a lot to talk about. Everyone will be able to get a copy of that data and the presentation as well. So please let us know if you'd like a copy of that. We want to make sure the numbers are easy to understand, even though there's a lot of them. And we'll continue to work to make Albuquerque safer and better quality of life for everyone. So thanks to the men and women of APD, Chief Schultz, all your leadership team, thank you so much for all you're doing. Have a good day.